Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us at the launch of our BFSI training program. We are very excited to bring a very extensive training program to you. But at the same time, we welcome all the panelists, all the fantastic people that you see across on the screen who've joined us from across the world to the launch of this uh, banking, financial services, and insurance training program. Um, Without any further delays, let me first of all introduce and invite Asad Hamid Khan. Asad Hamid Khan is the head of ACCA Pakistan. He's a certified director and a professional accountant. So, and has been with ACCA for around 8 years, Asad, if I'm right.
Yes.
Yes, all right, okay. So thank you very much, Asad, for joining in. If I can also introduce the other speakers who are available on the screen right now, and they will be speaking on their turn. So straight after Asad, we will have Pulkit Abrol. Pulkit is the regional director, ACCA's regional director for the Asia Pacific region. So after Asad, Pulkit will come in and speak to us, followed by Steve Lee, and Steve is the regional head of market development for the Asia Pacific region. Thank you very much. And these two gentlemen are joining from Singapore, so you must appreciate and realize that it's past 8 o'clock in Singapore, and they're taking time out from their personal time and coming to join us here. Narayanan, and thank you very much, Narayanan, for joining us as well. I understand you joined from the UK, is that right? Okay, so in UK, it will probably be around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock?
It's 1 o'clock, Arun, yes.
1 o'clock, all right.
1
okay.
p.m.
So
1 p.m. I'm
thank
not
you very
getting
much.
up in the middle of the morning.
Okay, thank you very much. And let me also introduce Narayanan. Narayanan is the head of policy development working at ACCA. And most of the interesting professional insights that come across, the person behind that mostly is Narayanan. So after that, we're going to have a panel discussion. And the panel discussion is to be led by our very own Rauf Ali Jan. And Rauf Ali Jan is a fellow ACCA member, a very accomplished one. He's going to moderate the conversation. We will also be joined by Mr. Muslim Raza. And Muslim Raza Saab is a representative of CFA Society. And CFA, we're very thankful to them for joining us in this initiative. They are a part of this training program that we've launched. So Mr. Muslim Raza is going to be there as a panelist. Other panelists will include Tahir Sartaj. Tahir is also our ACCA member. Nasif Islam, also an ACCA member, and myself will be part of the panel discussion. So that was a quick rundown of the program today. Without any further ado, if I can hand over to Asad for his welcome remarks. Asad, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Harun, and a very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us, to our members, to our future members who are joining today's broadcast. It's a wonderful session for us. It's a great progression that we have seen over the last so many years in partnership with yourselves. As you would have seen and experienced the entire progression that ACCA globally has undertook, we know for a fact that ACCA is seeking to be a force for public good. Our vision is to be number one in developing the profession, and at the heart of everything that we do is the value that we bring to our members. And in terms of the value that we have been bringing to yourselves, you would have seen that there has been a gradual progression. In the past, it has been a mix of generic CPDs, it has been a mix of specific CPDs. But now we have taken this sectoral approach, which we believe is pretty much a sector that is going to create a lot of opportunities for our members and our future members fraternity. I'm really thankful to all who have joined us today, the panelists who will be sharing their insights later in the session today, and our colleagues all the way from Singapore and the UK representing the regional directorate, our regional head of Asia Pacific, Pulkit, Steve Lee, and then Narayan. So I'm sure that we are all anticipating that what this series entails, what it brings to us as professionals, how it is going to add value not just to our day-to-day affairs and operations within our organizations, but how can we really contribute to the wider economy within the organizations that we are working in. The next point that I'd just like to bring up, I'm sure that you would have seen a lot of resources that ACCA has brought over the years. Most recent being the ACCA Learning Hub. We have a lot of continuous professional development programs, resources, content over there. So I'd also urge yourselves to please have a look at that. And last but not the least, relevant to what we are doing today, the Career Navigator. Career Navigator is a set of resources that ACCA brought in last year. The main purpose of the Career Navigator was how we can really bring and visualize that success for our members and our future members in each area of the career that they wish to really progress and decide as their future direction. Why we chose BFSI in terms of the launch, I'm sure that Harun and my colleagues will pick that up later today. But it is such a fantastic sectoral breadth that it presents. Whether we are taking it from a regulatory spectrum, we are taking it as a customer experience spectrum, whether we are applying the lens of sustainability, whether we are applying the lens of financial inclusion, and why I picked up these four particular areas is that ACCA over the years, especially over the last 2 years, has committed to sustainability. And within that commitment, we as an organization and through our member and future member fraternity as well, our partners have committed to 9 out of the 17 United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. So without further ado, I'll just keep it short for this session to progress and wish all future participants the best of luck. Please do make sure that you are able to maximize this opportunity. This is a dedicated 40-hour CPD series spanning several weeks. You can also engage your fellow colleagues who may not have had this information shared with them as yet. So thank you very much once again and wish you a wonderful day and experience going forward in our series. Thank you. Over to you, Harun.
Thank you very much, Asad. Thank you for bringing up some very relevant points. I also wanted to share with everyone that so far for this particular program, we have received over 600 registrations. So quite a lot of interest, particularly from the membership, just from this part of the world in this particular sector. And also, and Steve, this this will indicate how much interest there can be, in the BFSI hub and other resources you're going to share with us. So definitely, BFSI is a very, very important sector, both in terms of recruiting the ACCA talent and the services ACCA members are providing in this particular domain. So thank you very much, Asad. Let's move on now to our keynote speaker, Pulkit. If we can hand over to you for your keynote address.
Thanks, Arun. Good afternoon, salam alaikum, and it's a pleasure to be here amongst very distinguished panelists and members of the ACCA community. Thank you for listening to me for the next couple of minutes as I try to give you and sharing across Asia Pacific and how ACCA is committed to supporting your needs and the profession and the community at large. I am the regional director for the Asia Pacific region at ACCA. This multifaceted region includes geographical markets like Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and Oceania. It includes Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and the mainland Southeast Asia markets such as Vietnam and Cambodia. It also includes Southern Asia markets as Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, and of course, Pakistan, which is where we are hosting this conversation with you today. Based at Singapore, my primary responsibilities include leading the regional development agenda, leading teams, advocating ACCA's work and value to the profession in upholding the very highest standards through thought leadership, professional insights, continuous learning, and ethics. Personally, I've been benefited from a very diverse leadership experience and a career spanning multiple sectors and industries. So I'm very pleased to be here today sharing some of those insights with you and to encourage you to continue to stick to these 40 hours that Asad spoke about. I'm also passionate about organization diversity, economic empowerment, sustainability, inclusion, and business value creation. Dear members of ACCA, ACCA is committed to supporting its members' career success by using its global voice and insights to build the forward-thinking and ethical reputation of ACCA. Our cutting-edge insights and continuous learning keeps its members ahead, and our global community opens doors to new opportunities, including connections with fellow professionals, employers, and forward thinkers. ACCA is definitely playing its role as a super connector, and evidence of that is our fellow professionals joining us from the Chartered Financial Institute as well for this conversation today. We are encouraging all organizations that we work with, drawing on our global presence to facilitate connections that deliver value. We are in the process of transforming our network into a proud, connected community with members and future members and your needs at heart. ACCA is supporting its community to think ahead and drive positive change in the communities that our members work in, serve in, and live in. ACCA is a global voice to the profession as an outcome of this collective experience of its communities. We are reinforcing our reputation for bold leadership, inspiring people, employers, educators, and organizations everywhere in the world. Now the question is, why is accountancy, and particularly this segment of the industry, important for the future? Accountancy, as I mentioned, is a super connector for the economy, somewhat a software for a cross-business language. It's a profession that will continue to work with partners, regulators, governments, trade organizations, donor communities across the world, and support international trade, good governance, security, and sustainable infrastructure development in many economies. With the role of business in society recast in the last couple of years, and new demands from stakeholders for increased transparency and accountability, the future roles of accountants is key to helping businesses respond to the major sustainability challenges and opportunities ahead. This is the profession at the heart of promoting sustainable business. The accountancy profession is integral to regulatory reform, working to develop regulation standards, reporting requirements, which are the bedrock of trust in capital markets, which underpin the workings of modern economy, which drive increased confidence and visibility in business for stakeholders. Restoring and strengthening trust in business, government, and other institutions is a key priority for economies worldwide. At the core of the remit of the profession will be continuing to serve interest and public interest through improved audit and assurance, governance, reporting, and ethics as a practice. The profession will continue to adopt highest ethical standards to promote responsible business. The second reason is effective advocacy through ACCA members that I'd like to talk about. If all the accountants learn what they can do and apply it to creating sustainable businesses and economies, they can really make a difference. If they use their ethics, responsibility, and knowledge, they can surely save the world. Moving on to the support mechanism that ACCA has in place to achieve our aforementioned objectives, our global banking, financial services, and insurance working group has proudly shared the newly updated Financial Services Members Hub, accessible through ACCA's global website, now with added focus on career support, community, and well-being. I strongly advise all of you to become a part of this community and access specially curated ACCA reports and articles, relevant continuous professional development areas and events, including banking, financial services, and insurance sector opportunities, career resources, and even support for hirers on the search for talent. You will also be connected to the growing ACCA LinkedIn community for financial services, which is becoming increasingly active and international in its representation. With over 24,000 members working in BFSI sectors globally, this group is working to ensure we provide due care, attention, and support to this important sector, which remains as one of the top sectors hiring ACCAs globally, according to LinkedIn Talent Insights report for 2022. Another aspect of why I'm encouraging you today is also that it's bespoke CPD program specifically for Pakistan on BFSI. I'm excited to share with you that ACCA has focused on not only looking at global content, locally relevant content merged with global insights as local content, and also localized areas of professional development to its members, which is why I'm really excited to hear from the panel later today the local flavor of what's going on. This training program on BFSI is ACCA's commitment for value offering to its members in Pakistan. There are 3 more courses in the pipeline which will be launched in due course. ACCA also takes due care for members in economically challenged countries, and for this reason, we're offering these courses free of charge for all active ACCA members. In the end, I encourage all of you to take full advantage of the opportunities being created for you and by ACCA and our partner organizations like CFA. Continue to learn, develop, progress, and succeed in achieving your ambitions and goals. Stay connected to your ACCA community, and thank you so much for listening to me. Back to you, Haroon.
Thank you very much, Pulkit. Thank you. Very insightful, very encouraging speech from your side. Our next speaker is Steve Lee. And Steve, while we're trying to introduce you, I think you've already been made the presenter and you have the option of sharing your screen with us now. So while you're sharing your screen, let me just introduce one more panelist, which my bad, I skipped earlier, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, you can see on the screen. He's a member working at the State Bank of Pakistan. And Muhammad Ali is also going to be an active trainer in the BFSI course. So I think a very valuable resource for us. And we're very proud to have you here with us. So Steve, we can see that you're ready. So over to you for your presentation. By the way, Steve is going to introduce the global BFSI hub to you. Very, very important, and I'm sure all of you will be listening with great intent and with great attention. So Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Haroon, and thank you, Asad and Pulkit as well. Before I begin, I must admit I'm a little bit rusty with GoToWebinar, so if we have a few hiccups along the way, do pardon me, and we'll try to get over that. Can I just confirm, everyone, you can see a PowerPoint slide in front of you on your screens? Can you see the PowerPoint? Can I just have a verbal confirmation? Great, thank you very much. Great. Okay, let's jump into this. Actually, what I'm going to do next is really just to expand on what Pulkit has shared a few minutes ago on the resources that we have put together for our members, specifically in banking, financial services, and insurance, BFSI. So he's actually done the introduction, made my job easier, so thank you very much. But just to repeat, my name is Steve. I am part of ACCA's Asia Pacific team. I'm based in Singapore, but I work with colleagues across the region, including Asad and his fabulous team in Pakistan, in the areas mostly of employer partnerships and employability. So I think it gives me no greater pleasure than to spend time with members like yourselves to talk about the kind of resources that we put together in support of your career journeys. So I'll just launch into the first slide, and it's a map. Pulkit actually mentioned just now just some of the key reasons why members in this sector, and the sector in particular, BFSI, is so important to ACCA. With over 24,000 fully qualified members spread across the world in BFSI, plus the many thousands of students who are also in this industry, we are working very hard, trying very hard to put together resources that will be relevant to your career development as well as your personal development as we move along. The markets or the countries that you see on the screen in front of you now, these just happen to be the places where we have the highest concentration of ACCA members in the BFSI sector. So you can see Pakistan is among the key markets, as well as Singapore, where I am, and in the rest of Asia Pacific countries like Malaysia and Hong Kong and China as well. So it's a very important segment, and we are very glad to be doing all we can to provide you with this support. And this was the resource hub that Phuket alluded to earlier, as did Harun. So in our quest to provide our BFSI members with more targeted support, we've actually created the Financial Services Sector Members Hub, which you see in front of you on your screen. The slide will be shared with the attendants tonight as well, and the necessary links will be included. So not to worry, you'll have full access to these resources after today's session. But really, in essence, what this hub addresses is your professional development as members in BFSI, your own career support, which we are trying to provide, as well as your own well-being, which we all know is important to address these days, as well as to address your community of fellow ACCM members in the BFSI sector. If I just go into more detail as to what each of these three pillars represent, I'll just maybe touch on your professional development first. So once you click on that, what you'll find is specially curated articles from across the different ACCA publications that are geared towards the BFSI sector, so very relevant to professionals working in this industry, as well as featured reports from our policy and insights team that are relevant to the BFSI sector as well. I wanted to mention also before I go on that last year, what we actually did was to conduct several small batch community research sessions with members in BFSI across different markets. I am guessing that some of you on this call tonight would have participated in some of these surveys as well with my colleagues. And what we actually did was to ask members like yourselves in BFSI, what are the resources that ACCA provides which you use the most, and what resources or support would you like to see more of? So the first thing they said was that they wanted more relevant CPD, and the fact that you're here tonight, starting off this 40 hours of CPD, I think that speaks volumes. But the other thing that the members told us was that they wanted more relevant resources for professional accountants working in the BFSI sector. So that's why we've taken the trouble to curate these articles for you, so that you have really basically everything that you need under one roof. The other thing that they told us as well, or you told us, was that you wanted relevant training and more opportunities to network with your fellow members in BFSI. And I'll touch on that in a short while as we move along. So this is the articles and reports. Next, also under your professional development, you'll find where we have put together BFSI related training, more CPD and more training for you. But you can see on the right side of your screen there on the bottom, it says recommended CPD. This is where we put together all the available courses, be it from ACCA or from some of our partners, for example, like AMT training, like you see on the top there. And some of these courses that you see here are with other partners as well, for example, like PwC Academy. So this is where we'll continually refresh the courses available and update this page as we move along. So do come back to visit regularly. Next, we touch on your career support and well-being, which is the other pillar, the other segment in the resource hub. And this is where you'll find specific resources that address your well-being, your health and mental well-being, as well as your own career development and resources that will support that. But before I go on, I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that we are planning to host a BFSI specific career fair, a virtual career fair, by the end of this year. And whether or not you attend as a participant, a member, or even as an employer looking for talent, I think this will be very relevant to everyone on the call tonight. So please stay tuned and look out for news on this upcoming event, which we're very excited to be presenting for the first time. Also on this page, you'll find resources that will help you address your own personal well-being. Careers advice at the top middle there, which is specifically geared towards careers in banking and financial services from experts and your fellow members as well. And if you look at the top left-hand corner under job search, this is where we've curated job opportunities specific to banking and financial services. So it leads you to our job site, which is called ACCA Careers. You can see the name on the top right-hand side there. And I just pulled this screenshot out from the job site yesterday. And when I did so, there were just over 7,000 specific jobs for finance and professional accountants in the banking and financial services sector across the world. So very useful resource to have, and we will be sharing the link with everyone after this session as well. Next, we look at your community, which is the last pillar of resources we provide in the hub. And this is where we try to address what you said to us, which is that you wanted to connect with more like minds and fellow members in the BFSI sector. So for example, if you click on this top left button here, it leads you to the financial services sector LinkedIn group, which is comprised of members like you. Currently, there are over 500 members spread across the world. So if you're not already part of this group, please join, take part in the conversations, and enjoy the discourse. There is also a interest group in LinkedIn, which is specific to the fintech sector. I'm not going to touch too much on this because I think my colleague Narayanan will be talking more about fintech, so I don't want to steal the thunder, but you can see this is very relevant to ACCA members who are working in fintech or have careers that are adjacent to the fintech industry. And just a quick show of the kind of different organizations or companies that these members currently come from. And just a few quick screen grabs of the type of conversations and discussions that are going on in the FinTech interest group. Lastly, I want to touch on yourselves. You're not just members, many of you are employers as well in the BFSI sector. We are also providing support for members as employers. So for example, what you see on screen here is the ability to advertise job vacancies at your organization for free at our job site ACCA Careers, which is today probably one of the largest and fastest growing accounting and finance job sites around the world. So I will provide the link as well. If you are looking for the right talent, the best talent in accounting and finance to join your sector, this is definitely a resource that you should be paying attention to. And this next resource, I think probably will not be relevant specifically to yourselves as fully qualified members or experienced professionals in banking and financial services sector. But I do know that many members, such as yourselves, have a passion for inspiring the next generation of professional accountants and finance professionals. Specifically, if you're looking or talking to young people who are thinking about a career in BFSI, you might want to take a look at this. This is our virtual experience focusing on sustainability in the banking sector. And we developed this program on a very popular digital platform called Forage. And we did this in partnership with our one of our approved employer partners, which is CIMB Bank. CIMB Bank is a regional bank based out of Malaysia, but they are quite heavily spread across the Asia Pacific region. We developed this virtual experience with them to showcase to young people what it's like to maybe spend a day as an intern at CIMB, specifically in roles that are geared towards sustainability. So of the 3 virtual tasks that are featured in this Forage program, one of them deals with client due diligence in terms of assessing their sustainability agenda. The other task deals with setting targets for sustainability linked loans given out to clients. And the final task, which is headed by this gentleman you see on the left hand side there at the bottom, he's Amran Muhammad. He is their chief internal auditor at the bank and a fellow FCCA. His task involves an internal audit process within the bank itself to look at their own carbon footprint and carbon emissions. So do have a look at it. If you know of a young person who is thinking about a career in banking, recommend this to them, get them started to think about a possible career journey in your sector with this virtual experience. And lastly, as part of the slides, I have put together some of the links to the more useful resources we have shared. So I look forward to having you go in to explore and to make full use of the support that we've put together for you. And that brings me to the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. Excellent presentation, full of information, and I'm sure at least all the 150 people who are attending this session, I'm sure they're all going to be a part of all those, the platforms that you've shared, the LinkedIn group, the BFSI group, and the hub itself. Thank you very much, and very, very resourceful, I must say. There were quite a few things that I got to know for the first time as well. So you keep checking with you and what's new in this in the BFSI domain. Thank you very much for that. And let's now very quickly move on to our next speaker, and that's none other than Narayanan. And Narayanan is going to talk about the emerging global trends in banking and finance, and particularly with the lens of fintech. So Narayanan, I think Rauf would have, I'm going to make you a presenter. So you should have an option to share your screen with us now. So while you're able to share your screen, yes, we can see your screen. I want to inform all the participants that next up we have a panel discussion. We're running it for about half an hour to 40 minutes. It's going to particularly look at the local aspect of BFSI. So please stay in touch. And Narayanan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Harun, and hopefully all of you can see and hear me clearly. And you can also see the slide, which I will put on full slide mode shortly. Thank you also to the preceding speakers who've really provided fantastic context and a lot of information, as mentioned, for the session, which is on fintech. I'm Narayanan, and I lead policy development at ACCA based in the UK. And we have basically within my team, we are structured by region. So one of the regions is APAC, and of course that is particularly relevant to today's discussion because, as you heard from Pulkit earlier, Pakistan sits within the APAC region. I also cover 3 other regions just for information. So one is called EMA, which is Europe, Eurasia, Middle East, and the Americas. So that is from Europe to the east, and then the Americas in the west, and then India and Africa, which is one combined region, and I have a separate responsibility around China as well. So the reason I'm mentioning all of this is because my comments in the brief time that we have now are pertaining to a global piece of research that links to my role, I suppose, in a more globally orientated role, and hopefully will provide adequate background as you move into the panel discussion, which I'm sure will also be fascinating in terms of some of the perspectives that are specific to Pakistan. So with that little preamble, I'm going to attempt to make this full screen, and hopefully all of you will be able to see it in large on your screens as well. Harun, can you see that as a full screen? If you wouldn't mind just confirming.
Yes, yes, we can see the full screen. I mean, previously we were seeing all your
Fantastic.
files on the screen.
Oh dear. Well, you have my sympathies. But my comments, I suppose, in the brief time we have, are based on a report that we did jointly with Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand. And the report was entitled Fintech State of Play, which was done earlier this year. And essentially, what we are looking to do in the report is to try and contextualize fintech for the accountancy and finance profession and what it means and what we've learned when taking that question around the world to try and understand where we're at. So there are really three things very quickly that I'd like to share with you today. I should say that this report and all the information associated with it is available, of course, for free on our ACCA website. And for those of you that have subscribed to the ACCA Insights app, you might see it coming through via your app as well. So the three things that I'd like to cover very quickly are just a quick sense of what the report is trying to achieve, and then what we mean when we say fintech. So that's what that setting the scene bit is, and then what we're learning around career opportunities for accountancy and finance professionals in this space. So in terms of the report itself, we first of all want to demystify fintech a little bit. It means different things to different people, and it's a slightly confusing term sometimes. So we just I guess provide our perspective on what we think about when we say fintech. We identify 10 specific job roles of professional accountants who are working in fintech. All of those 10 job roles are based on case studies of real people. A large number of them are ACCA members in the report. Some of them are CANZ members. And we have about 20 or so case studies. So it's roughly 2 people for each of those job roles. And we also reflect in the report on key skills that we see coming through for success in each of those job roles. There is some quantitative information as well, which is based on a global survey of over 5,700 respondents. And these are all essentially people who are working in the accountancy and finance world. So in terms of setting the scene on fintech, I suppose it does what it says on the tin, which is it's financial services plus technology. But fundamentally, it's about transforming how financial services are delivered and consumed using technology. And that transformation could be new business models. So in other words, a new way to connect with your customers. It could be new applications, new back-end processes, new products, better user experience. I think as Asad perhaps mentioned in his earlier comments, ultimately it's about automated and improved proposition. That's what the synthesis of finance and technology is seeking to achieve. You might well ask, why does it matter? So I think the first thing is it's a sector that's thriving with really diverse components. As you can see from that chart there, you've got everything from, mobile payments and contactless payments, which you might do via phone, to fully online, fully digital banking. Payments is, of course, a massive space. International and domestic money transfer. You've got cloud-based point-of-sale systems, electronic point-of-sale, fund transfer points of sale, and so forth. So basically, if you go into a merchandising environment and a machine through which you can pay on site, application payment gateways, basically application payment interfaces, so which are slightly more at the back end. Credit scoring. So this is about being able to offer, if you look at the traditional banking model, and even if you look at, some of the basic parameters around offering credit, often it can be based on things like what is your current salary and, how many years you've been working or something like that. And one of the things that fintechs have been trying to do is expand the parameters to try and see if there are lots of people who might be good credits, but because the current credit models are not very clever, they get dropped out from the system, and the industry loses out as well on people who could be very successful customers for them. So part of the fintech story is really about expanding the way in which you think about the customers who could be in scope for you. Trading, settlement, and custody is probably a little bit more investment banking related and back end of that. Peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding. So this is, of course, platform-based models where you've got, in the case of P2P lending, someone on one side who has funds that they'd like to put to work and someone on the other side who's looking to borrow funds. One of the fairly successful use cases around the world has been around SME lending, where people who are willing to put their funds to work. SMEs have found that sometimes it can be easier for them to source funding through some of these more innovative mechanisms. Crowdfunding, often equity-based crowdfunding, of slightly similar concept, platform-based, but more around taking an equity stake. And then some stuff which is a little bit more at perhaps the near the edge of the bleeding edge of things, depending on which jurisdiction you're in, but things like cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens, central bank digital currencies. So these are ultimately about the decentralized economy, and they have different, people will have different views on it. Ultimately, the genesis of it is around trying to question whether there's a way of doing things which allows more expensive central counterparty orientated systems to be replaced by more decentralized systems where market participants can exchange value with each other more directly. I think there are different considerations in play, and depending on the jurisdiction, in some jurisdictions it may be appropriate to have a central authority that is there to curate and to provide an element of risk management. But then there are also other models, for example, with CBDCs, it's not necessarily about pure decentralization. It can be about efficiencies as well. For example, the ability to be able to track where funds are going, which can have implications for the tax receipts that you can get. Also, the cost of printing and managing cash, particularly for small value denominations of cash, might not be very efficient. And some of the use cases in some countries are linked to that kind of thinking as well. So a bunch of different things there. And then wealth tech, reg tech, insure tech. So these are taking things that are already happening in financial services, whether it's wealth management, insurance, or regulatory management, and bringing a fintech lens to it. So for example, if you think about wealth tech, private wealth management has been typically a very exclusive affair, and you need to have an individual financial advisor that sits across the table and looks you in the eye and charges you a heavy premium for a personalized service. And what the fintech industry has realized is that there are a lot of people who may not be ultra rich, but they have some funds and they would benefit from some financial advice. And they've also realized that on the other end of the equation, a lot of the services that are provided can be commoditized, because it depends on taking a customer and being able to segment them into a certain category of risk. And for each category of risk, there are some basic pointers that you can bring up around what's an appropriate financial product for that category of risk. So it may not be super tailored, but there is a space in the middle where you can provide, for example, a platform-based service using wealth tech, which gives better financial advice than the person might have otherwise been able to access, and which is appropriate for the level of funds that they have. So it's about finding those niches in the market and creating, in some cases like this one, a more democratized access to financial services as well. It's worth saying that this is very much a global story. This is not about something that's just happening in the US or whatever. This is a completely global story happening, as was noted earlier, in Pakistan, happening in Africa, happening everywhere. And that's one of the things that I think also underlines why it matters in the way that it does. The other thing I think why it really matters is that when you think about the trust in fintech products, there's a huge amount of buy-in, particularly when you look at younger consumers. And in the research, as we noted earlier, over 5,700 people, when you look across the age ranges from left to right, and the question was, do you trust fintech more or less than traditional financial products? What you find is that the level of trust is the highest at the younger age groups. So if you look at that net trust from about, I think, 23% to 13% to -5 as you go to the right-hand side. So if you're thinking about the consumers of, in fact, increasingly of today, but definitely about the consumers of tomorrow, then this is definitely a place that you want to be playing in, because that's a place that they want to be playing in. It's also worth saying that when we talk about fintech, if you'd asked me this question maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would have said fintech is going to be the massive disruptor. It's if you think about the market, like for example the UK, which is a very concentrated retail banking market, you've got 4 or 5 really big banks, and they corner the market amongst themselves. I would have said, and I really believed 15 years ago or 10 years ago, that fintech would come and it would absolutely kill off all these banks. And I felt there was perhaps, not such a bad thing, because I've been with the same bank for maybe more than 20 years now. And that's not because I particularly love them. I don't hate them, but it's because, A, there are only 3 or 4 to choose from, and B, there's a huge amount of apathy once you pick a certain provider and you see it as a utility and it's just sitting in the background. But I think what fintech has done is it's really made people think, am I getting value from my financial services interaction? Am I getting the best possible value, and am I getting the best service at the best possible price? And I'm not going to go into, all of those line by line necessarily, but I think the headline point that I want to make here is that my thinking has shifted a little bit in the years that have gone since the last decade or so. And my view now is that it isn't just about disrupting and competition and trying to kill off the traditional banking or financial services industry. I think it's a mixture of competition and collaboration. What we're increasingly seeing, and I suspect all of you are well aware of us and have seen as well, is many of the larger organizations often partner with fintechs. And what fintechs tend to be very good at is taking one micro slice of the financial services value chain and doing it very, very well, bringing some serious innovation to it. And often what might happen is a large bank or financial services organization might look at that and say, you know what, we'll set up an incubator, or we'll set up an accelerator program, we'll get all these smart people, these startups to develop and think and work within our ecosystem. And if we find something we like, we might make them an offer and we might buy them. And once they buy them, they'll white label that solution. And so the front end might still be the big bank, but the back end is powered by the solution that they've effectively incorporated through the fintech. So there is a lot of collaboration that we're also seeing now. And the reason for that ultimately is because there is a certain synergy here. The fintechs have the innovation, they have the ability to try new things, they have a digital first mindset, they don't have legacy systems to deal with. On the other hand, the big banks have the existing pool of customers, they have the brand trust, they have the product. They may not have as much product innovation to begin with, but they have the ability to scale up if something works. They can scale it up very quickly. And they also have a degree of product protection for regulated industries like banking. That can be a really important factor. If you've got your life savings with an organization, you probably want to know that they're a regulated entity with a banking license, and if something goes wrong, then you can recover your funds. So, there is a good kind of a complementarity. It's also worth saying, I think, that when you think about this kind of strategic, big picture view of the industry, there is a third leg here, which is increasingly really important as well, which is big tech. Because when you think about the Amazons and the Googles and so forth, they've got the technology and the technology-led innovation capability, but they've also got the huge, massive existing customers. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot that will happen continuously, which makes it really exciting. But I think the big thing for me, which I would highlight there, is that it's very important not to see things in terms of binaries. I think these different market participants are all interacting with each other, and it's really important for professional accountants to understand that big picture before they dive into what a specific job might involve. It's also worth saying, as came through in the research, that government does have potentially a really powerful role to play here, and there are a whole host of things. As I said, the report is available on the website. But if you look at the one on the left, which came through very strongly, which is building links internationally to learn best practice, there was a big drive in the work that we did for people to say, look, it's really helpful to understand what's happening in other parts of the world, what's happening in other jurisdictions, particularly around regulation. It's really helpful if there's a certain amount of commonly applied principles that work, even if the specifics of regulation differ from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. There's an element of commonality around the underlying principles for that regulation. So I think that element of really building links internationally is something where governments can really play a part. And in terms of specific career opportunities for professional accountants, so the first thing to say is about half the survey respondents explicitly see career opportunities for themselves. It's probably worth noting that another quarter also neither agree nor disagree, and in a sense is saying, it may end up being something that we jump into. So I think, one way or another, there's a big chunk of people across a very large sample of over 5,500 who see fintech as being something where it could be in the game for them. In terms of the specific jobs I mentioned at the start, there are these 10 roles, and they range from, as you can see there, CFO, financial controller, auditor, transformation lead, digital fintech strategist, and so forth, entrepreneur. One of the things that I would really highlight is that we're not talking, when we say fintech, for the accountant to go and retrain as a programmer or an IT person or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. What we're saying is these are people who've qualified as professional accountants, who work as finance professionals, and there's a huge demand for people exactly like that. You don't have to know everything about everything in technology. You just need to have an interest, and you need to have the ability to learn and be willing to be nimble. You need to be willing to pivot, because fintech is a fast-moving space. Clearly, it's not for the sort of person who wants to do the same thing, the same set of tasks every day till the end of time. Probably not the right industry for them. But if you're the sort of person who's dynamic, who likes to pivot, who likes to learn, and who likes to create value, there's a lot of things which are linked to existing skill sets. The first one is a classic example, CFO. It's a very recognizable job title to anyone coming from an accountancy and finance background. If you speak to a fintech startup, assuming the founder is not, coming from a finance background, which is often the case, the first hire pretty much that they'll be looking to make is a CFO. And they will be desperate to get someone with an accountancy and finance background. And the reason for that is that if you're a fintech startup, one of your biggest priorities is growth capital. You want to make yourself look good in front of venture capital investors, in front of people who you can convince that you're worth investing in. And those people, the first thing that they look for is, if you're telling me that your 12-month, your 24-month, your 3-year forecast looks like this, if you're telling me that your current numbers look like that, I need to know that I can trust you. I'm not going to invest in you otherwise. And one of the biggest markers they look for in order to trust the numbers coming from a fintech are whether there's a professional accountant involved. And the CFO is often playing that really crucial role. It also means the CFO has a huge role to play in really having commercial understanding of what's going on, what is the value proposition of the business, and what is the story. That storytelling capability is really important. And if you look across those roles there, even auditor, for example, it's a very, very recognizable role, but there are lots of flavors to it. So, for example, one of the case studies in the report talks about someone who audited one of the largest e-money providers in Malaysia. And basically, the point that he was making was that, so this is basically an app-based payment, right? So if you go into a shop or something, you download the app onto the phone. The merchandisers downloaded the app onto the phone, and the payment can be made through the app. So it's a little different from making a payment from, let's say, a Visa card or any other normal card-based payment. And if you're an auditor at the back end coming in to audit that company, which makes that kind of provides that kind of e-money solution to its customers, who are often shops and merchants. One of the things that this individual realized was that the normal, very extensive paper trail may not be available in these kind of organizations. A lot of information is just held in soft format in digital systems, and also an understanding of the actual business model of how they operate, what their interaction is with the merchants, all of these things. And that understanding of the business model is really important if, from an assurance point of view, you want to have a meaningful view on things like going concern. You can't have a meaningful view on going concern if you don't understand the business model of how they interact with their key customers and stakeholders. So it's all the stuff that's very recognizable around regulation. We have people there who are doing roles where they provide regulatory advice in some cutting edge areas like decentralized and cryptos and so forth. And these are people that individual, that example, is someone who very much has his career grounded in audit and trained in a Big Four, and then diversified into this kind of space. So the key message that I would say is that there's a lot of transferability in the training that comes with accountancy and finance. And I think it's really important not to lose sight of that. And the way that a lot of these individuals are adding value is through an understanding of new business models, through commerciality, and being able to tell a compelling story about how their fintech is going to create value. Technical accounting came up for some areas like cryptos and so forth, tax treatment of cryptos in some jurisdictions. Ethics and trust cannot be overestimated. It is absolutely fundamental, because fintech to some extent is like a Wild West, depending on which jurisdiction, but more or less anywhere in the world, it's a little bit of a Wild West. And so there's a huge amount of value placed on people who bring that ethical mindset, who bring that reassurance that they really have a strong view on ethics and trust. And professional accountants have that reputation. So it's something that, when the door is open, walk through it. It's something that the profession can bring. Digital first is really important. It's not just about very fixed workflows and paper-based stuff. These organizations might operate in a very different way. And I think overall, I would say there's something around that flexible approach that can pivot to the changing needs in a fast-moving industry. I think that tends to be often a really important growth mindset characteristic for people who really take to this environment like a fish to water. So in a nutshell and in conclusion, I'd say professional accountants have it all to play for. There's a rich, exciting range of job roles on offer. These job roles are wide-ranging, and importantly, there's a high-value portfolio of skills involved here. I'm not talking about jobs where you're just sitting there pushing a button or whatever. I know you guys are quite senior anyway, but fundamentally, the point is that across the board, the kind of opportunities we're talking about are opportunities which involve thinking, judgment, bringing your whole self to the job in a way that is really, really powerful. Building awareness of products and competitive landscape within fintech is really important. That was that initial slide about understanding the big picture before you think about just your own job and your own little piece within it. And then understanding regulatory considerations, I would say, is a really huge opportunity for accountancy and finance as well, because it's evolving. And it's also something where fintechs are not very good at it, generally speaking. Regulation is a cost. They hate it in general, which is understandable, but it also means they need help with it. And I think overall, I'd say reinforce an innovation and purpose-driven mindset, being excited about new ideas that drive sustainable value, and being able to pivot to changing business requirements, because that's often where lots of really interesting things happen when there's that open-mindedness to see where the opportunity lies in the marketplace. So hopefully that gave you a bit of a sense of what our thinking is around this space. And I thank you once again for your time and attention. And I wish you a very, very successful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Narayanan. Very, very informative presentation. I wish we had more time, to hear more details. But I think some very important messages given by you. I can't simply get that one sentence out of my mind that if you're not nimble, if you're programmed to do the same thing over and over again, you're not a fit for fintech. And I immediately looked at Rauf's face, and and he had a smile on his face. So yes, I think you have to be. I mean, you very rightly said, people need to be ready to pivot to change and be agile learners. So I think that's exactly what we're trying to achieve through these sessions as well. Thank you very much, Narayanan. And I will urge all the participants that please take time out. These professional insight researches are available on ACCA's website. They are available to you through your mobile phone app as well. Please take time out and benefit from these extensive resources that ACCA has provided for you. Thank you very much. And let's now very quickly move on to our panel discussion. And I'm sure Rauf has a very difficult job at hand to summarize the entire panel conversation in about 25 minutes, because 6:30 is the time when we leave. Rauf, over to you. If I can very quickly call out all the panelists as well once again. So Rauf Ali Jan is the moderator. Muhammad Ali, our colleague, our member from the State Bank of Pakistan, is the panelist. Tahir Sartaj, our panelist from the National Bank of Pakistan. Mr. Muslim Raza, representative of the CFA, is here with us. Mr. Nasif Islam, I hope you can hear us. Nasif was on a meeting, and he's attending this session right from the middle of the meeting. So thank you very much, Nasif, for taking time out. Nasif is an executive vice president at Zan Bank and an ACCA member.
Thank you so much. Yes, I can hear you.
Sincerely.
It's just the rain that's worrying me. That's.
Is it? Okay. Right. So over to you, Rauf.
Thank you very much, Harun Saab and Narayanan. That was very insightful discussion. I really enjoyed going through all these things, and it reminds you that there are so much happening in the fintech environment, and here in Pakistan as well. If you just translate all the things which Narayan was saying in Pakistan, regulator has been very proactive in that. We'll talk about it with Muhammad Ali and see how the regulator has been very active. They have issued recently the RAST product. They have recently announced the branchless banking, digital customer onboarding, and all these things. But before going on to that environment, I just want to congratulate and wish everyone 75th Independence Day for Pakistan. And it was a very big celebration for us. And I really want that we should enjoy that, and I wish for Pakistan's success. Moving on, Nasif, if you can hear us, I'll start with you being in one of the largest Islamic banks in Pakistan. How much is the size of the Islamic banking in Pakistan, and how do you see that in future few years as well?
Thank you so much, Rauf. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, ACCA, for inviting me as a panelist. Just a quick introduction. My name is Nasib Islam Raza. ACCA and I go back a long time. I qualified in 2002, so it's been a long, long time. I've been in the banking sector for almost 20 years in corporate banking in Pakistan after I qualified for the firm. Yes, Rauf. As compared, like you said, Pakistan completed 75 years on the 14th of August. Islamic banking started in around 2002. So we are just around, Islamic banking in Pakistan is around 20 years old. But we have been growing tremendously. The demand is there. As far as the size is concerned, just to give you a ballpark figure, the organization that I work in, Mizan Bank, is out of the 21 banks, we are the 5th largest bank in Pakistan in terms of deposits. We achieved this target last year. Overall, the Pakistani banking sector is divided into 17 conventional banks and 6 Islamic banks. These 17 conventional banks are also offering their windows in Islamic banking. So that total, there are 3,956 branches which cater to the Islamic banking appetite or needs of the market. In terms of growth, our asset base in Islamic banking is around 5.5 trillion in Pakistan, and deposit base is around 4.3 trillion in Pakistan. Which in terms to the overall Pakistani banking sector market, we contribute in the asset terms around 19% in the asset side and 20% around in the deposit side. So in 20 years, we are around in the ballpark figure of 20% in both terms of assets and deposits. But the main story is the percentage of growth. We grew these assets by around 40% in the last year. These are phenomenal numbers of growth. So that just shows the acceptability in a market where people are given an option of conventional banking and Islamic banking. People are starting to choose Islamic banking a bit more. It's not just because of Islamic banking, it's about level of service, the network availability. Basically, an alternate is being offered to these banks. And even the recent initiative of the government of Roshan Digital Account, 50% of the Roshan Digital Account was shared by Islamic banking. So not just in Pakistan, even the expat community of Pakistan have been choosing Islamic modes of financing and Islamic modes of Islamic channels banks for their Roshan digital accounts.
That's very good statistics, Nasif. How do you see that Islamic banking growth further in the Pakistan? Do you see some more banks coming in? Do you see some more apps coming in with the Islamic banking platform?
In the Islamic banking program, as far as the banks are concerned, we are seeing a sizable bank like Faisal Bank, who is in the which is converted into from a conventional bank into a full-fledged Islamic bank. Other conventional banks, after seeing the growth rates and the numbers, we are accountants, we all rely on numbers. The numbers are undeniable. So they are focusing, you can see through the ads, through the ad campaigns of the other banks, they are focusing more on their windows, more on providing catering to this sector, and they recognize that this is a genuine demand in the market for these sort of financial Islamic financial products, and they are starting to come in. As far as how do I see the way forward, I'm very optimistic about the future, as well as what fintech and how adaptable to these fintech would be Islamic banking or be it conventional banking. As of right now in Pakistan, the market is more towards payments side, but I do feel that the banks are primarily based on technology and the systems, either in the mode through the mode of acquisition or through internal developments. I think most of the banks, not just Islamic Bank or conventional bank, all the banks are getting towards adapting to the fintech environment, or at least developing in-house or go through the mode of acquisition.
Thank you, Nasir. That's very insightful of you. Moving on to Muslim Raza Sahab, you have been working in the Habib Metro Bank. I just wanted to understand from the perspective of, as Nasir Sahab said, about applications and the branchless banking. You know, branchless banking started with some of the apps going back to 15 years when Easy Paisa launched, and now Jazz Cashes. They both combined cover, I think, 70% or two-thirds of the Pakistan's branchless banking world. How do you see branchless banking playing their role in the future of Pakistan's banking?
Thank you, Rauf, for that question, and a very apt and a pertinent one. Especially after Narayan's session, I was a little thoughtful on what things should I be saying because he did a very thorough one on digital, and you being a digital expert in your area and an auditor, one is more afraid of speaking. Okay, so I'll start with a brief introduction about myself, and then CFS Society. I'll take that opportunity. Apologies, Harun Sahab, on that, and then I'll go into this question. So I have been a foreign banker for around 20 years, 21 years, chartered ABN, and then Habib Metro. Primarily a treasury professional and a visiting faculty at IBA, and certainly I'm a CFA member for. CFA Society is, as most of you would be aware of, is the gold standard for investment and investment professionals. We have around 170,000 professionals globally, and nearly touching 1,000 members in Pakistan. So we are there in every other organization that you can look at, and equity market is primarily where we spend our time on. Okay, going back to the question that you asked about digital, and so Pakistan, if I look at it, throwing some stats around the population. So of the 220, 230 odd million population that Pakistan have, the 56% of that population is youth, which is tech savvy. Around 35 to 40% of our population are internet users, very active on the internet, and such that around 65 to 70% of that population connect on the net and use an app every other day. Similarly, social media is something that we're very active on. 70 odd million people connect on social media, which is around, and 18% of that do via mobile. Now, throwing these stats, what does that show for Pakistan? I think the age of brick and mortar banking, while it will not vanish and branches will still be there, it has been ages or maybe years since I visited a branch for my own transaction, and then the same would go for most of us. So while I work for a bank, the only reason that I walk through a branch is because I'm going to my office. But other than that, primarily for my primary transactions, we don't visit a branch. Whether you talk about electronic transfers, whether you talk about POS transactions, so there are 30 million odd debit cards on ground, which are used primarily by our customers in Pakistan. And the transaction size that happens when you look at it, while each ticket is smaller of around 4,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees per transaction, but the cumulative transaction is in trillions. So the thought that is coming through is that people would discontinue their regular visit to branches and move on to platforms. So whether you talk about WhatsApp using a payment module, which we see China, WeChat has been a very popular payment module, and WhatsApp is now trying to bring that globally into other areas. QR codes, if you look at in India, I've seen some pictures and reports where in India you can actually buy your vegetables via QR code. And I was visiting Bahrain over holidays, and in holidays I witnessed that in Bahrain you actually don't carry cash or even cards. You have a mobile number where you just tap the number and you transfer money from your account to that person's account. And it is generally not I'll swipe it, I'll debit it. It is just I'll benefit it to you. Give me your mobile number, which Pakistan Central Bank has also moved towards by using RAST as a digital banking option. So those aggregators, RAST is an aggregator, similar, those models will come through. And I think those aggregators will make the life of the common man easier. And our wallets, which were thick with all plastic and all cash money and polymer money, would actually reduce and become more simpler to carry and in a phone. With that, yes, one fear that as Pakistanis we have is, or as any global citizen would have, is those firewalls and theft and digital the ability of those firewalls to protect our money and protect our phones. Being a Karachiite from the normal people around, so yes, those risks remain. But then that if I was looking through a report around a month back, things are now changing even away from the mobile phones. And MasterCard around a month back has launched a system where you can just smile into a webcam and your transaction would happen. So it will recognize you by moving away from biometric into face recognition and into smile recognition, and to some extent into what sort of wave you do. That wave would actually charge a respective account that you've set up. So my left hand wave would charge my A account, my right hand wave would charge my other account. And just to give you an idea of the international market, it's around $18 billion in numbers. So it's that's just a biometric number. So globally, this is becoming the key thing, and I think we as a nation should start accepting digital and moving towards that.
बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है मुस्लिम साहब, and as you rightly said, और नारायणन भी जिस तरह बात कर रहे थे more about the international market, and you have seen recently that NFC products have started to be used in Pakistan as well. You can see a lot of machines are there where you can just put your card. You don't have to insert the card for a smaller transaction. You don't have to even put the T-pin in, and you will be able to use your card. And with the different apps which are coming into mobile, like you said, QR code is also the alternate for the cards. You can just use your mobile, take the picture through an app, definitely for the QR code, and you can still use it. So definitely we as a country are moving in the right direction. And I'll move on to Muhammad Ali again for the regulator's point of view where we were talking about trust. But I really want to understand, Tahir, my next question is to you, where I would like to understand what Narayan was talking about was about the employees, where we can use the employees in the fintech. But in Pakistani market, do you think that we have the right resources, right manpower available who we can use in the banking sector? You have been in the banking sector for a very long time. You have been doing the regulatory reporting. You have been involved in the capital adequacy, Basel II, Basel III reporting for a long time. I really want to understand, how do you see the skill set which is available to the market, and if the manpower requirements will be met locally for us. Over to you, Syed.
Okay, thank you so much, Rauf. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. HR is available, but right skills are in short. Basically, right skills is not available, right? And there's a talent shortage is affecting all the companies, not only in Pakistan but also worldwide. A survey has been conducted by Manpower Group, and in 2018, and they come up with the output that 45% of the employer across the globe that they cannot find the skills they need. And this survey has now come up in 2022. This shortage has increased to 75%. So there is a huge gap in what our employer is expecting and what the resource is available. So yes, there's a shortage available, but that shortage is for the skills, because our employer is requiring more skill set. That's why now they are now moving towards the training. They induct the people, and they have a robust training system in their banks where they train their people in accordance with their job requirement. And you yourself must
40 hours of training of BFSI, the Powerhouse training which we are conducting. Do you think that will help ACCA members in this filling the gap?
Yes, definitely. And I would like to highlight this point that this BFSI was a brainchild of our MNP back in 2018 to 20 tenure, where we have proposed that there should be some trainings should be conducted specific to the industry, and we should come up with some CPD hour sessions on that. And that should not be for 2 hour or 1 hour session, that should be for 35 to 40 hours, so that those who are sitting in the industry, they can share their ideas, they can come up with their skill set which they can pass on to the new members, the future members of our community. Well,
yeah, you rightly pointed out that these will be very helpful, but just to add for the members' benefit, that although this is very helpful, but you have to take the ownership of your right skill set. If you think you are working in regulatory requirement reporting like Tahir is working, or you're working with me like in audit department, you have to improve your skill set by taking the ownership and learning the skills which are needed. Yes, Tahir, you were saying something.
Actually, one part of, you're very right on this point, and I totally agree. This is the learning, and there was one more question that you asked, that what is the, why there's a, I mean, you were asking about what is the manpower need of banking sector. So on this point, I must say that our sector, this sector, that is banking sector, is highly regularized. Even the cashier should know the regulations of the regulator. There are a number of regulations. Even that's a very lower position. Cashier is a very, I mean, front end and very basic position, but that position is very highly regulated. So what I'm saying is that other than the journal skill set of communication, being efficient, being learner, being a team member, being a skill set person, but you should understand the fact that you have to comply with the regulations as well. And by the time, I mean, in the last 10 years, what I have witnessed, that there are a number of groups which are now coming in, which we previously have not witnessed. Like, for example, digital banking group, service quality as a group, even cash management as a group. These were the services that number of groups were, or number of departments were already doing. But now the canvas of each and everything has gone so much and so many new products are coming in that banks now have developed their separate departments. And on this point, I also want to share one statistics that banking, branches network from 2015 to 2020 has grown by 25.4%. This is the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics thing which I have identified. So definitely, if our banking network is grown by, one fourth of what they were in 2015, so definitely we need human resource and we need the right skills human resource.
Rightly pointed out, I couldn't agree more, and you are right that all the new things which are happening in banking, this powerhouse course will give you the idea from the Pakistan's perspective what is happening and how we can utilize the resources best. And after that, you will have a very good idea. And 40 hours is just the beginning, and then you will be able to, if you want to get the expertise in regulatory reporting, you want to get expertise in finance, like IFRS 9 is going to be implemented from January 1st, 2023, based on the latest circular. And if you want to get ahead of IFRS 9, that is going to be very impactful in the Pakistan's banking industry. Moving on to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali has been working with State Bank of Pakistan, and I'm very enthusiastic in the initiatives which State Bank of Pakistan has been taking. We have seen Roshan digital account where you can open the online account. Digital customer onboarding has been implemented. Recently, the digital banking license was announced, and now as Muslim Brother was talking about, that interoperability of Pakistan's banking is not that much. We have to carry different cards for different banks, and Rast has tried to minimize that. I would like to understand, Mohammad Ali, do you think that Pakistan's regulatory environment is at par with the banking sectors across the globe? What is the regulations in this sector globally and in Pakistan? Are we being more conservative or liberal? Over to you, Mohammad Ali.
Yeah, hi there. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes,
audible?
we can. Yes, loud and clear. Thanks.
Yes. Well, I believe over the last few years, over the last 5 years, banking industry has gone in Pakistan has started to go through a very rapid transformation where we've seen more fintech companies coming in. We've seen Rast, and we've seen that banks have had to digitalize themselves way faster than they would have wanted to. And obviously then the advent of COVID, during that time, banks had to even be quicker in adopting some of the digital banking services that they would probably have thought that they might adopt a little later. And also they had to make things cheaper for their customers in light of what the regulator wanted them to do. So what I'm trying to tell you is that over the last 5 years, the banking industry in Pakistan is going through a faster transformation. So if we look at this scenario in the country, I believe that Pakistan is having to transform the regulatory framework. The regulator has had to chip in and has had to work more proactively in ensuring that the regulation is up to date with how the things are changing globally. Because look, we as a country are becoming more connected to the outside world. We as a country are becoming more, we are adopting digital banking faster. So I think 5 years back from now, our banking industry was not as complex as the outside world. So our regulation was not as complex because we didn't have so many different factors to deal with. And now that the landscape has changed, fintech, we've started to adopt fintech. More fintech companies are coming in. Banks have had to ensure that they adopt digital banking faster than they should have had. So in terms of fintechs, strictly speaking of fintech, the regulation is updating itself. We cannot say that it is over-regularized or under-regularized. I think it's maturing. And the regulator has played its part over the last few years, where it has made sure that the ground is clear for fintech companies to come in and to apply for a license, get a license, and start operations in the country. So we've seen that fintech startups have started to, they've started business in the country. We can say that there are about 40 different fintech companies that have come in over here. And then we've had the RAST. With RAST, like you've said before, what the State Bank has tried to do is it has tried to make sure that the life of the consumer is becoming easier, like in China, like in India, RAST has started as a P2P platform. And the future of RAST is P2B and then obviously B2B. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the consumers in the country have an easier life, where they can go and start paying things in an easy manner. And obviously then we're trying to make sure that the economy is becoming digitalized, and we're making sure that the economy is becoming documented. So with fintech, I believe that Pakistan is going through a transformation in terms of regulation. So we cannot say that it is under-regularized or it is over-regularized. If we speak of the other...
We are at the right level of regularization, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So we are going through a transformation. We mature, and we see that in a year's or a 2 years' time, our regulation would have matured enough. And then we can say whether it's under-regularized or over-regularized. But at this point in time, the State Bank or the central bank's perspective is to make sure that more and more fintechs they come into the country. And then obviously there it would be important that we have the capacity, the manpower who's trained enough to chip in and to ensure that those companies that come in, they're able to deliver to the needs and wants of the masses in Pakistan. Now, if we speak of the regulation of the other sectors of the society or of the of banking sector, I think like my friend has previously said, that we are over-regulated. I would say that we are fairly regulated, because our country is a developing country, and our banking industry is also a developing banking industry. So we've got to make sure, we as a country and the central bank as a regulator has to make sure that our banking industry does not go through a shock where there is a risk of a systematic failure. Considering the fact that the central bank has made sure that there hasn't been a major systematic setback to the banking industry, I do believe that the regulator has done a good job in making sure that the banking industry remains stable. But having said that, I'd like to again, bring my point in that our banking industry is going through a transformation. So we are fairly regulated. Whether we'd be under or over-regulated, we'd have to look over the coming few years. Now, looking at how the banks have done over last 1 year or over the time of COVID, it'll be important, because if we were over-regulated or where our regulator was too strict, our banks would not have been able to make enough, would not have been able to do well in the country, or would not have been able to contribute. If we look at the times of COVID, I've been working through the development finance department, so I've been in touch with the industrialists representing different sectors. I've been in touch with different bankers. So the State Bank of Pakistan made sure during COVID that it ensured that the regulations were made more adoptable for the banks, to ensure that they were helping the business community do well. And it is because of that that the banking industry, not only has the banking industry done well, but also they've made sure that they've helped the economy, they've helped the businesses stay a going concern, or they've helped save the jobs. For example, State Bank introduced a scheme known as salary and wages, and it made sure that the regulations were in place, or they were
they were made adaptable for the banks so that they could lend under those schemes. And because of that, we were able to save hundreds of thousands of jobs in the country, and make sure that the economy went came out of the COVID without being affected too much. So I again reiterate. Yeah, so I again reiterate, and I put my point in again that our banking industry as a whole, in terms of the fintech, and in terms of the fintech, it is still not clear. It will be clear in a year or two's time. At this point in time, we are under-regulated, or we are fairly regulated in terms that we are making sure that more and more fintechs come in the country. And in terms of the other banking sectors and the other banking industry, I do believe it is fairly regulated, because we've made sure that our country does not face systematic risk from the banking sector, and our banking sector has done well. They've managed to grow in terms of their banking assets, their net investments, their gross advances. So banking industry is one of the industry operating under the regulator that has managed to do well as compared to so many other industries. So I'd say that we are fairly regulated. Yeah, I hope I answered my question.
I think, Mohammed, you have covered all the aspects, and I was very glad that you covered the fintech and the conventional part as well. Moving on, Harun sir, coming to you, how many percentage of our members and affiliates are working in Pakistan in the BFSI sector?
Thank you very much, Rauf. Since we're really short on time, I'll very quickly get direct to the question. Pulkit, in his keynote address, mentioned a figure from LinkedIn. The number of ACCA members employed in the BFSI sector, and that is a major population of ACCA membership working in this particular sector. If we talk about Pakistan, I can combine both corporate sector and BFSI together, and the major share in the corporate sector is BFSI. 67% of our membership in Pakistan works in the corporate sector, and the remaining 33% works in practice, and they work in a very small portion, less than 10% works in the public sector. So that's the mix right now. Of course, the purpose of bringing this program up was to, number one, benefit all the members in Pakistan who are in the BFSI sector or planning to get into the BFSI sector. And that was the main motive of coming up with this program. If that answers your question.
Sounds good. I think this program overall will be very beneficial for the members, and I urge all the members online, and please encourage your active ACCA members, or your friends and colleagues, to join all the sessions. We have placed it over the period of 90 days, next 3 months, starting from tomorrow. You will be learning a lot about different facets of BFSI. If you are not interested in insurance, or if you does not want to talk about any of the specific areas, you can skip that. But I would urge you, more you will know how to understand that, and it will not only, as Tahir Sartaj was talking about, it will not only help you grow, it will help the employer to get the resource which is already very valuable and knowledgeable. With that, I would like to give it back to Harun Saab, and I really enjoyed talking to the panelists. Thank you very much, Tahir, Nasir, Muhammad Ali, and Muslim Raza Saab. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much.
Harun,
Yes,
if I can just take a minute, adding on to that question around Pulkit's statistics for the banking, financial services, and insurance sector, and your input on that. If we look at it from a Pakistan perspective, almost all banks are now moving towards an ACCA approved employer program. Most of them are trainee development. They're moving into professional development. We have seen a strong shift in terms of membership working for them. There are banks now converging into the professional development stream as well. And last but not the least, in terms of the content of this BFSI program, I think whichever organization you are representing, whether you're working for a bank or an organization that is interacting with these financial institutions, the valuable insights that we feel that we will be able to deliver to our membership fraternity so that value can be brought into your day-to-day operations primarily from four angles. You see risk management, understanding how your exposure with the banks or the financial institutions or your insurance policies and covers can work. Secondly, understanding how the banks put together their lending rates. So if you're a borrower, if we have understanding around the statutory liquidity requirement, the cash reserve requirement, etc., how they bring together that cost to the customer, yourselves as corporate. Thirdly, in terms of the regulatory arena, I think there are a lot of times we as professional accountants, while working for organizations, have little understanding of the regulatory, as we call the prudential regulations, which govern these banks and the relevant circulars. And last but not the least, I think it's a great opportunity to have that information to mentor your future members and exciting them about the prospects of working in the financial services industry, which, as we have spoken about at length, is underbanked. There's a great scope of inclusivity. Technology is bridging that gap. New players are coming into the fold. The regulator is one of the most progressive over the last 20, 30 years since I've been associated with the capital markets. There is not a single case where you would find a financial institution going belly up, as was the case in the mid 90s, in the early 2000s, in the 2007 global financial crisis. So that's my 2 cents on that. And thank you very much, Rauf, and all members and our CFA colleague for bringing this wonderful panel conversation, and to Harun to orchestrate this great session. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just some concluding thoughts, and we're going to start from tomorrow. I have seen a lot of suggestions that participants of today's session have put in the questions box. So a suggestion around Google Drive. I mean, all that is going to happen. Those who have attended our 6 digits program in the past, they would understand exactly how we operate. So yes, there are going to be drives available where we're going to share resources. There are going to be WhatsApp groups available. There already is one on banking and finance, and we will be refreshing that group. Both Rauf and Tahir Sartaj, they are representatives of our MNP, in this group. So they will be, your focal point for this particular program. We are focusing a lot on the local element of BFSI in this particular case, and in a lot of areas which are global in nature. Of course, ACCA, as Steve shared with you, ACCA has a global resource base available, and we will point our ACCA members towards the global resources as as and when required. So with that spirit, with that theme, we're going to kick off tomorrow, inshallah. Please come in with your sleeves rolled up, socks pulled up, and be ready to for a long, about 90 hours engagement with the ACCA team and the worthy trainers. So I think I am looking forward to this very, very enthusiastically. I'm sure all of you are also ready for the program to begin. I think that's all from our side. Wonderful conversation. I would want to thank all the presenters, and for those who've joined us late, we had Asad Hamid to begin with for the welcome address. He delivered a welcome address. We had Pulkit Abrol, our Director Asia Pacific Region, came in and congratulated and encouraged all the members. We had Steve Lee, the Regional Head of Market Development, APAC, and we had Narayanan as presenters. And then as the panelists also, I'm very, very thankful to, first of all, Rauf as the moderator of the session. Thank you very much, Rauf. I can see you sitting in your office, still working. And thank you for your wonderful moderation. We had Muhammad Ali, our member from the State Bank. Thank you very much, Muhammad Ali, for your elaborate answer on the role of the regulators. We have Tahir Sartaj. Tahir commented on availability of human resources. Yes, there is a shortage of talent. Yes, there is a shortage of the right skills, and this is exactly what we're trying to address through this program. Muslim Raza Saab, thank you very much coming in and sharing your thoughts with us. Very interesting example of smile recognition and wave recognition. I mean, wonderful. I hope that time comes soon in Pakistan as well. Nasif Islam, thank you very much for bringing in the Islamic element in, and once again, I've already said so, but Rauf and Tahir Sataj, Rauf, both of them, they are our MNP members and the point of contact for the BFSI Powerhouse Series. So they are going to be, your forerunners for this BFSI program. With that, I think we bring today's session to an end. Thank you, everyone, once again, and hope to see
I
you
just
soon.
want to wish best of luck to the people who participate in that, and because I'm in Karachi and I know that weather is not very good today and tomorrow and the coming week, so I just want everyone to be a little bit more cautious when coming on the road, and sometimes it's not very thoughtful of the people who are driving with you. So be very careful on the roads for today, tomorrow, and this week, because we are expecting heavy rains. So good luck to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Be
Thank
safe.
you.
Thank you all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Allah Hafiz.
So.
Allah Hafiz.